Tales of Azeroth, Vrykul, Episode 1, Ancient History. Vrykul are some of the most complex, misunderstood races of all of World of Warcraft. They are a race of fearsome, half-giant warriors that live in Northrend and Stormheim, and are known for their affinity with the sea and dragons. In order to explore this race, I will split this topic into various videos, and I will try and add context for certain pieces of lore wherever necessary. Being a Vrykul enjoyer myself and having the skills to create this kind of content, I thought myself capable of indulging in this and clarifying some of the misconceptions and the basic lore for one of my all-time favorite World of Warcraft races and cultures. We're going to be covering multiple topics across the various videos that I will be covering for Vrykul, and if you think this video does not contain everything regarding the Vrykul, you would be absolutely correct. Let's delve into the origin of the Vrykul. The Vrykul were originally a Titan-forged iron race, beings of pure metal carved with runic patterns and obeying the very Titans themselves. They are one of the oldest races since they were created during the Ordering of Azeroth. Here's a bit of extra lore as well. Odin did not like, or never really liked, the aspects nor any of the dragons, and did not want them to become aspects, because he thought the only species or the only beings capable of guarding Azeroth were the Titan-forged creatures. So Odin sought to create his own elite army, one of steadfast and valiant stature, and he only saw the Vrykul as the best candidate. But despite Odin being against the creation and the empowerment of the dragon aspect, it still happened. And in response to not listening to Odin's objections, Odin and his daughter Helya took a section of Ulduar and raised it into the sky, calling it the Halls of Valor. In doing so, he relinquished his state as Prime Designate. Later, he told the Vrykul that those who died a worthy death in battle would have their spirits lifted into the Halls of Valor and given new, immortal bodies which would become known as the Valor Jar. But what else do we know of the Vrykul? When Odin created his Halls of Valor, he would need Vrykul to volunteer to become Valkyr. Valkyr are ascended female Vrykul, originally warriors of the light, created to serve the Prime Designate Odin and bringing the spirits of the glorious dead to his halls. Now you might wonder how Odin came to the idea of creating the Valkyr, or more particularly where the visual aspect came from. And this is actually pretty interesting. According to the lore, Odin sacrificed his eye to Moizala, the Loa of Death. The Loa is basically a god for trolls, and saw the Kyrian from Bastion in the Shadowlands, and was inspired by them to create his Valkyr. So being inspired for his Valkyr, Odin sought to create his own. However, the Vrykul objected, and Helya, his daughter, tried talking him out of it. But instead of listening to his daughter, Odin transformed Helya into the first of the Valkyr, ordering her to do the job for him. Over the course of time, Helya nursed resentment against Odin for thousands of years, and Loken, who had become corrupted by Yogg-Saron, an old god, and had banished his servants to the Storm Peaks, convinced her to turn against her former father. Helya used the same magic that had been used to lock the elemental plane to seal Odin and his Valor Jar army inside his precious halls. And she then decided to create a new realm, Helheim, taking the souls of the Vrykul there instead. Helheim is a desolate realm of the Valkyr Helya. Here, the spirits of dishonorable Vrykul spend eternity in endless, futile battle, always seeking glory, but never able to attain it. Helya was quickly replaced with Aegir, leader of the Valkyr, and Loken would go on to steal Odin's title as Prime Designate. For many ages, Loken's betrayal lasted. The Titan-forged who were exiled spread across northern Kalimdor, many remaining above ground and congregating into clans, some of which wandered the harsh northern wastes as nomads, while others established dwellings across forested tundra. But in time, Loken's own creations, the fire giants Vulcan and Ignis, saw the storm peaks around Ulduar ripe for conquest. After a tenuous time of peace, they armed the Winterscorn clan to attack other Titanforged across the storm peaks, thus starting the Winterscorn War. But how did they become the most commonly known fleshy version we know today? Because up until this point, we've only really been talking about iron-forged, Titan-forged Vrykul with iron skin and runic markings, and we haven't really gotten to the point where they are the most commonly known fleshy version. During the Winterscorn War, the metallic skin of the Vrykul became brittle and weak, beginning to show the first signs of the Curse of Flesh. The Curse of Flesh is a condition or curse created by the old god Yogg-Saron and suffered by many Titan creations. Originated from the Forge of Wills and slowly spread through the Titanforged, turning them from metal and stone beings into flesh. At the end of the Winterscorn War, Tyr asked the dragon aspect for aid, and the war ended prematurely, with Ysera and Nosdormu putting the Winterscorn into a timeless sleep beneath northern Kalimdor, or as we know it, Northrend. Their campaign to seek and conquer the world ended, cut short. Azeroth was spared from their barbaric ways. With the Winterscorn defeated, the Titanforged were still divided. Tyr, Archaidus, and Irenaea stole the discs of Norgannon from Loken and gathered great numbers of Titanforged who dwelled around Ulduar. The ones they gathered were seen as victims of Loken's treachery. A large group of peaceful Vrykul afflicted by the Curse of Flesh, most of the surviving Earthen, and many Mechanomes agreed to flee southward in preparation for their next move. They traveled until they reached the location we now know as Tirisfal Glades. Here, Tyr sacrificed himself fighting a Cathrax, in order to allow the rest of the Titanforged to flee further south. However, the Vrykul, moved by the Keeper's deeds, decided to settle in Tirisfal and would stand vigil over his grave until the end of their days. Despite the fact that the Winterscorn were asleep, the remaining Vrykul still dominated northern Kalimdor. Over eons, their cultures flourished in unique ways. One of the mightiest clans, the Dragonflayer clan, much like the Winterscorn clan, found their iron hides turning to flesh over time. They tried to balance their diminishing strength by enslaving proto-dragons, much like the Winterscorn. However, unlike the Winterscorn, they did not see these dragons as just beasts of war. They used them as companions and rode them into battle. Octel Dragonblood was among one of the first to ride one of these dragons. Without the proto-dragons, it's unlikely the Vrykul would have won their war against the Jalgar, a race of fierce bearmen who eventually evolved into the Furbolgs we know today. They're also the mortal enemy of the Vrykul. One clan in particular struggled against the Curse of Flesh. After trying all natural attempts, the tribe sought the aid of its priestesses. These women plumped into the world of spirits for answers. But Helia lied in wait. The ritual went south very quick. Helia further corrupted those that sought freedom from their curse, and these eternally vengeful beings would swell the ranks of the Kavaldir. The birth of humanity. 15,000 years ago, on the heels of the Dragonflayer's victory over the Jalgar, the Curse of Flesh took another turn, as if evolving. Smaller children, considered weak and ugly by Vrykul standards, were born. They were called aberrations and runts. The Vrykul society struggled, and was divided to figure a way on how to deal with these runts. Some were disgusted, and yet some showed a hint of mercy. Imran, however, their king, ordered the destruction and death of all such beings. Imran believed this was the Titans' doing, causing the Vrykul to forsake their gods, and Titan worship becoming outlawed. Imran took the side of those calling for death of these infants, and decreed that all parents with so afflicted children must kill their young or be taken to Celerbron for execution. But this would not stand. Despite their king's decree, some of the Vrykul sheltered their children and took them away from the land to a faraway place, the modern Tirisfal Glades. Having heard stories of the Vrykul clan that followed Tyr, they nursed and raised their children in secret, taught them to value the ancient ways of Vrykul society, as well as the ways of foraging, masonry, smithing, and warfare. And these runts would later become the humans. We do not know what happened to those who did not kill their children, but it is safe to assume they did not meet a kind end. For a vicious Vrykul warrior, Skadi relentlessly hunted down and killed any whom he came across who were trying to protect their runts. He was known later through his acts of depravity as Skadi the Ruthless. Most of the Vrykul who settled in Tirisfal Glades eventually died off. One group that lasted longer than the others formed Tyr's guard to protect his tomb. They knew they would not live forever, and thus decided to induct some of the humans into their ranks to ensure the future of the group. In northern Kalimdor, however, the Dragon Flayers, in an effort to stave off the wretched curse of flesh, put themselves into hibernation, using facilities like Gellerbron to go aslumber. The Tribunal of Ages, a false history created by Loken, claims that he ordered this hibernation, but that much is untrue. The Vrykul left their homes and keeps vacant as they slept. There they would remain undisturbed for thousands of years, even by the great sundering of the world. And thus concludes the ancient history of the Vrykul. Thank you so much for watching this video, and in the next episode we will be covering everything that happens at the start of Wrath of the Lich King and everything after that as well. So we have a lot of lore still left to cover, and then we can move on to some of the more intricate parts of the Vrykul lore. I'm hoping I'm doing this a bit of justice. I know that this isn't the easiest thing to follow along with, but I'm trying to simplify the most complex things of lore so that you guys kind of get the basic gist of what this video or what this lore actually is about. With that having said, if you did enjoy, please don't forget to leave a big fat like. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications if you're new, because I will be trying to post more lore videos like this. And with that having said, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.